Have you checked the children? Your little Mesa
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Still Jaime and Fuego.
And we are continuing our trek through the Joe Hill comics verse. Now, technically this series is not part of the Hill House Comics imprint, but this is, it's a totally different company technically. So IDW did this series with him that is called Dying is Easy, a shit talk Holmes mystery, as you can see at the top there. Now,
Yes,
what's
indeed.
interesting about this is that Fuego and I found out about this series way back in a year plus ago when Joe Hill came and actually mentioned that this was something he was working on.
Yep, it was when he was doing the Full Throttle book tour, and he stopped in Scottsdale, and we got to hear him wax intellectual and just be fun for a while. It was cool.
Indeed. So we are here to talk about the first arc, which is 5 issues of Dying is Easy, aka Dying is Easy, Comedy is Hard. So This is, well, you know what, Fuego, why don't you go ahead and do the story on this one as well, if you don't mind.
No, that's totally cool. So we have not recently retired, but he at least had a few years in narcotics and, various other stuff. And then he also did, 3 years in homicide, if I recall correctly. So, I mean, this is a hardened detective who saw a lot of shit, you would presume. And he had a breakup with his wife, who has primary custody of his 2 twin daughters, and now he's trying to be a stand-up comedian. But the predominance of his material, which is what's so amusing about it, is recalling back to all of his time on the force, and it's pretty graphic. It's definitely very R-rated, just like with the Hill House comic stuff, man. I mean, this doesn't shy away, and I know he worked with IDW previously for at least a couple different projects. A couple of them are eluding me right now.
Tales from the Dark Side was IDW, I believe.
That was IDW, and there was also the Thumbprint. That was another one that I think they did the graphic novel representation of, which was cool as well.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I reviewed that solo here on the channel after reading the short novella. But yeah, so he ends up, after a night of a failed just opportunity on stage, he hears from Mo and a few of these other characters that he's like, yeah, there is this guy named Carl Dixon, I want to say.
Something like that.
Yeah, Carl Dixon,
Nixon,
something. But yeah, he's stealing material from other people.
Including Holmes.
Yeah, including Holmes as well. And he has a little confrontation with him in an alleyway, beats the crap out of him, and then the next morning he wakes up and finds out, oh, homie was murdered, and they're blaming you for it, even though he had, actual conscious interactions with this guy following the,
he walked away and the guy was still talking.
Yeah, he was in fact mimicking him and showing when he had stolen some of his material and used it on stage, because this guy is getting all the breaks currently. He's
going to be the next big thing out of this comedy club.
Yeah, he's doing the bang down on this woman who's 20 years older, who is a well-connected studio exec. He's going to be on Jay Leno. He's going to guest on Friends. This actually, with guesting on Friends, this takes place in the 90s, similar to where the Basketful of Heads that we also reviewed today took place in the 80s. So I like the fact that Joe is veering back into his adolescence, his childhood, younger adulthood, whatever, and getting that sort of flair, because you see it with like Cockbuster Video or blood, just all the different messed up names and stuff like that. So I appreciate the incorporation of that in the storytelling, and really it's just him on the run after that. Everybody, and there's both
including
cops
getting hung up in weird chases where he's on roller skates and a Jeep is trying to run him down.
Yeah, because there's cops beating down his door, and he also burned a lot of bridges before leaving the force. So if he did get locked up, there's a lot of guys who would want to just beat the crap out of him if he got locked up. And then there's a lot of other guys who he pissed off on the force who would, they would definitely be so eager to just nail him and, get him in that sort of precarious position and being wanted for this first-degree murder. Yeah, that's some serious stuff. I really like the art in this, man. I thought it was distinctively different. It was along the lines of a Stephen King book, Joe's Pop, that I enjoyed called N, which has an anniversary coming up very much.
That artwork was done by Alex Maleev, who worked on Daredevil for years with Brian Michael Bendis when they completely brought it back from the dead.
It has a very realistic hand-painted aspect to it, which I really appreciate.
Now, I gotta say, if I'm gonna give my kind of overall
please
thoughts
do.
into the
Please
story,
because I think I liked it a little more than you.
yeah, I am not the biggest fan of like noir detective stories. Though my favorite one might be Who Framed Roger Rabbit. To be honest with you, like
That
it's
one's
so
terrific.
simple, but it's fantastic.
Oh, Kristopher Lloyd's so good.
And there's just not a lot that have really hit home with me since. It
LA
is a bit of a
Confidential
whodunit.
or,
LA Confidential is good.
Hmm.
It's definitely an enjoyable movie, but it's just not the kind of genre I seek out. This actually had a bit more of a whodunit, kind of a little bit a la Knives Out, except it didn't reveal the whodunit halfway through the movie or through the comic. Yeah, things keep changing, especially at the end when you finally think you know what's going on, and then it changes again.
He did a lot of psych outs.
Yeah, Joe has his hand on a good little mystery here. It's just these kinds of things just aren't that interesting because it's conversation because it's after the fact, and he's trying to figure out why things happen, and it's just conversation. It's just not that interesting to me. And yes, I like the twists and the turns by the end, but the character, the burned out cop that's now a comedian, it just felt kind of, I don't know, just I didn't really jive with the story as much as I was hoping I would.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I absolutely loved it or anything, but it was, I mean, since I like that sort of storytelling, it was fun for me. I didn't feel like some of the darkly comedic stuff worked as well as maybe Joe was hoping that it would have. I didn't find this book necessarily funny even when it was trying to be, but I was intrigued and compelled by the mystery aspect, especially in the back half, like maybe 2.5, 3 issues where you think you know what's going on, and then it does throw the, Knives Out aspect of, oh, psych, this isn't happening, this is actually happening, and he's kind of a deplorable character in a lot of ways, which is where I couldn't really root for him. But I mean, with his name alone, I guess you could kind of know what you're going to expect here. But yeah, it's very much of the stuff that his father has done, where it's this flawed hero. I could liken it to the Bill Hodges trilogy in some ways, or some of the other hard case crime stuff that his dad Steve has done. So I still enjoyed it. I don't know if this character needs to come back for another adventure. I feel like it was like wrapped up in a lot of ways, and
well, no, he launched a new business at the end where he can solve more mysteries.
Which is where I was like, does this character need to come back? I mean,
not to me.
It's like what they did in Finders Keepers, the second of the Bill Hodges trilogy, where you wrap up that whole story, but then they start a little, an investigation agency afterwards.
It's also a little bit of a toned down Happy.
Yeah,
where
which
it's
I haven't watched, so I can't really.
Okay, well, it's like an out of control cop kind of guy.
Yeah.
That plays by his own rules, and the world around him is really over the top and stuff like that.
And a lot works out for him without wrapping everything.
But
up
the
in that
artwork
nice
is
little
beautiful,
package.
I will say.
Yeah.
The artwork is really cool stuff.
Those like 2-page spreads, especially, in which we get a couple times in a few issues, and they're mostly during scenes of action. So there is that car chase scene with him on the roller skates that we talked about. Well, it's not even a car chase; it's him jumping on a truck and just trying to go after these people. He's trying to, see if they were responsible for this crime. And yeah, there's a little bit of urban intrigue as far as criminal profiling from white cops, and it's very relevant in that regard for Black Lives Matter and stuff that's going down right now. But I mean, really, this was good but not great. I definitely preferred the other Big Joe release of this past year, which was Basketful of Heads.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely good as far as those kinds of, mystery cop stories go. They just don't really do it for me that much, so I gotta be honest.
So you mentioned 100 Bullets on the Basketful of Heads review. I got a lot more of a vibe of that sort of Vertigo storytelling from this,
sure.
And in the like
artwork wise,
more,
no, the other one is definitely more in line with that.
Yeah, but in the aspect of like the crime storytelling,
sure.
Just no real supernatural. I guess there is kind of a little bit of supernatural in 100 Bullets now that I think about it. That's an Azarella, right?
Yeah. I've only read the first trade. I do intend to eventually get around to all of it because it's a great premise. But yeah. So this was just kind of okay for me. Obviously, yeah, you seem to like it more than me.
A little bit better.
If you guys like crime stories, noir stories, whodunit stories, this is probably going to be more up your alley than it was for me. So definitely check it out. It's called Dying is Easy. Again,
comedy is hard, as
exactly,
we said.
part of that old saying. So check it out if that's kind of your bag. Otherwise, just stick with Basket Full of Heads, and you'll get the horror version of Joe Hill that I know and love so much. So
For sure, same.
but thank you guys very much for watching this. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss other reviews going forward. Thank you very much to our patrons for supporting the channel more directly. If you want to become a patron, the link's in the description box. You can tell us movies or even comics if you want us to review them, and we can access them relatively easily. Then we can do that as well. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And still Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.